it solves the silo problem, right? People want to stay on YouTube. Why? Because they like the buffet. They like to be able to show up on those results. If you got your own website, you're an island. And people aren't going to have 12 tabs open for their 12 creators. Just a lot of creators' islands are just going to die, right? People are just going to stop going to them. And then they're going to be forced back to the mainstream Web 2 platforms. Well, with this, your content's going to show up on Hive front ends. It'll show up on 3Speak. It'll show up on Hive blog. It shows up on the buffet. You still show up in the search results, but yet you have your own island. It's the best of both worlds. And when people it starts to click, there's going to be a tipping point. People are like, this is just better.
I guess first, Dan, why don't we just go through a bit about Speak Network and give everyone an update of Speak Network. And I don't know if you want to give your view on that first, and then I'll follow up with anything that's that I think can be added.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts for it. The node system with IPFS, and then you have the proof of access system, the token system, all of that. And yeah, it's just been fun game theorying this, getting it to a place where it's actually going to work and be functional. And Disregard Fiat, he's one of the ones leading the token side, making really great progress. Things that we thought, were going to take, half a year plus, he's able to chop right down and get something tangible, get something working. One of his, I would say, superpowers is finding a way to make something simpler and work better and more efficient. So it's been really great working with him because he's helped with just the logistics, just the little things, like we were talking about how to do the minor degradation. And, he came up with a good idea. So we're pretty much polishing off the last little bits. And we should see something very tangible very soon. So.
Yeah, sure. Echo that. And from my point of view, we just released this week the encoder nodes. So Vortex been working for a long time on getting the encoder nodes right. So that's out there now. There's a few beta testers working on that and giving us some feedback, and we kind of streamlining the whole process down and everything like that. But that's out there in the public domain now. So we now have open source encoder nodes that anyone can get involved in running. I think that's a super important milestone. That then allows us to build the base for the next set of nodes, which is the content delivery nodes. It's all the same basis, so it should take a lot quicker time to build the content delivery network nodes. So that's happening in the next few weeks as well. Like Dan was just saying, Disregard's been doing a lot of work on the tokenomics system, and so hopefully this week, maybe next week. I know on Tuesday we're doing a review with him, but let's say later this week, later kind of Friday to maybe this time next week, we should have the ability to delegate larynx tokens and then start to distribute and earn speak tokens. So anyone that's delegating to an infrastructure operator in the Speak network, they will be able to earn some speak tokens, and then anyone running infrastructure will also be able to earn the initial inflation of the speak tokens. And we're doing this way because it means that we start off at zero, everyone starts off at zero, and then it's a case of whatever infrastructure you're providing, how much you're delegating to people, how much you've got invested in the system, will then reward you the Speak governance token, the initial inflation of it at least. And then once we get a bit of that done, as Dan was just mentioning, we have the proof of access storage system. And proof of access is just simply people proving what they have, what they say they're storing, kind of proving that they actually have it to a set of validators. Once that technology is available, we're looking at, I don't know, let's say 2 to 3 months or so till that's kind of in a place. But that all depends on Disregard Fee and a lot of the work that he's doing. That will give us then the ability to reward people doing storage in the ecosystem. And once that's in place, we should be looking at the first voting for the first 20 validators in that system and the first 20 people who run the Speak claim chain tokenomic system. So yeah, it's kind of moving in the right direction. I think it's going to be one of these things, Dan, where there's been a bit of a lull between when we released the larynx miner token and when we're going to get this first set of Speak token distributed. And it's all gonna. I think it's all gonna happen at once. It's going to be one of those things where it's like one comes out and then the next thing's like, holy shit! In the last couple of months of maybe this summer, that you're going to get a load of stuff come out on the Speak network, all one after the other. So it's exciting. Should be. Hopefully, it's not too overwhelming though.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of things collide at once. And just to give people who might not know just a rough overview of what the Speak network is. It's a lot of people have been trying to solve the issue with heavy data, heavy storage. How do you store videos? How do you store music? How do you store heavy computational loads in a decentralized way? And we all know that there's plenty of pre-mine, VC-backed projects out there that we're running and we were looking under the hood of the ROEs and Filecoins and seeing how all this stuff works, we quickly realized that it was a lot of unnecessary bloat, maybe to justify the huge raises. You really don't need millions of dollars to do this tech. A lot of people, for whatever reason, I think it's because of the pre-mines and the horrible token distribution, that people favor proof of stake over delegated proof of stake, even though on paper and in practice, delegated proof of stake is far superior to proof of stake in pretty much every way. I can't think of one way proof of stake is better than delegated proof of stake. But the one thing is, if you have a pre-mine with delegated proof of stake, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Proof of stake kind of smoke and mirrors and kind of makes it to where, okay, you don't have to have the reputation. It's just about what stake you have. So we basically quickly realized that, hey, if you slap delegated proof of stake and find a way to incentivize off-chain data using a blockchain like Hive, which fast, feeless, offers an immutable text dump, so we can now build a foundation of immutable truth over it, so we can then call back and build our application on top of it. It saved a lot of time. It's much better, and we really think in practice it's just going to obliterate anything out there current.
Yeah, I think this is really key, right? Because everyone's obsessed with proof of stake and proof of work, they haven't realized, right? So what do? If you've got to solve a issue, you have to have an insane algorithm that works out when you fart and stuff like that, so that you can actually track, exactly what this person's storing all the time, every day of every second, and it's very, very strict. I mean, it's very clever shit. It's way beyond what most people can understand. But we looked at this and we're like, it works. It's well over engineered. Why not just vote in 20 validators? Just use a delegated proof of stake, vote in the top 20 people for each activity, and then you don't need these complicated proof of work systems. You just need to have the community saying, yeah, we trust this person. This is a trusting person. We're going to put them into the consensus, and then we're going to trust them to do what they say they're doing. And if they don't, they just get voted out. So in that way, you can reward people for doing all sorts of activities without having to have a proof of work algorithm that tracks every single thing that they're doing. So you trust that the community looks after its own interests and puts those people into positions of responsibility. And it just makes things so much easier. So this is going to be part of the basis of our proof of access storage rewards algorithm and a few of the other things that we're doing in the ecosystem.
It's not only easier to implement, but I believe it's going to work far better in practice. It's just going to be faster, right, more efficient, with less things that can go wrong. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I like this thing you were mentioning the other week, Dan, of you've got your top 20 people in that ecosystem. So they get voted in by the community. They may not have all the exact stake behind them, but there's top 20. We can even get to top 40 or top 60 in what we're doing with Disregard and Honeycomb. But they all have an equal weighted say. So it's not like just like on Bitcoin, you see there's more and more, it's verging towards a small group of people. Ethereum, it's definitely that. A few of the other chains have got their God characters, they're individuals that basically control everything. And on proof of delegated proof of stake, the great thing is, you take a look at Hive, for example. In the top 20, I think only 3 people have got inflations on HBD below 20%, and one of the top one block trades, the top witness block trades, has got 12% on his inflation for HBD. The rest of the community doesn't agree with him, but even though he's the top witness, the rest of the community gets what they want by the median average.
Yep.
And this is the way delegated proof of stake works, and it just gives these top 20 people an equal say in what happens on the chain. I think that's very, very useful.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what parameters. If you don't put up the parameters, it doesn't matter what ecosystem, Bitcoin, Hive, it does not matter. Human nature, free market, always favors efficiency. So there's always going to be somebody out there doing more work than everyone else. There's always going to be somebody out there that has more respect, commands more respect, and more people will follow than anyone else. And if you don't parameter that, you're going to have an issue, because there is going to be a gone complex entity or small group that most people, and this doesn't have anything to do with centralization, it has nothing to do with decentralization. It's everything to do with human nature. This is what we prefer, right? The tiger doesn't choose to eat the gazelle. It has to. It's how it's programmed. It's how humans are programmed. So if we don't add a parameter, a fence, a barrier, and chop it up to where we say, okay, well, there can't be. There has to be at least 20, and you got to agree. Even if that 20th in there has 1/10 of the voting power behind him that the top guy has, they still have to talk. You still have to respect each other, and you still have to come to a common ground. 17+1. That in itself, parameters protects. Without that moving forward, you have red flags. And again, another reason why delegated proof of stake is far superior to proof of stake. I won't say proof of work. I have a whole thing about proof of work. I think it's a unicorn. It has its own benefits, its own things.
It's got its own niche.
Exactly,
Yeah, sure.
exactly.
Sure. The problem that we see is obviously where people are trying to use proof of work for everything. It's like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. The thing that's going to be super cool is when this is running in the next, say, 3 months, 4 months or so, and there's a basic model out there that's distribute and speak based on who stores what. That's going to be so exciting to see this delegated proof of stake concept come into play, and allow these top 20 validators to be the people that bring the content in through the network, and then let storage nodes store the content from them, and then have them voted into the consensus based on their reputation in the ecosystem, rather than some proof of work, some complicated spaceship shit that isn't necessary.
Yep, exactly.
All right, very good. And the other thing to add as well is we're just starting a refactoring on 3speak.tv front end. So we've got a couple of really talented developers working with us on the 3speak.tv front end, and we'll hopefully have a kind of upgrade of that out over the next few weeks. So that should be super cool. That's taken a little bit of a backseat of late because we've been working on dedicating all of our resources as much as possible to the Speak network. And obviously, I think logically you have to have that foundation in place really before you roll out any of your apps. So we want to make sure that foundation's in place. So apologies for those people who've been asking for 3speak.tv updates over the last few months. We're getting there, and the work's being done slowly but surely. So please bear with us. The other thing that we've done as well is we're working now with a guy called Encoding, who's the guy that built the Hive Tube system that just got released, which we think is super cool. Hive Tube is basically where you can create your own vlog tube with very, very minimal input from your side, and it's really cheap to run every month, and you can basically have your own vlog site there. So we think that's a massive benefit to Hive and to the Web3 movement in general in terms of sovereignty over your own video tube. We are actually setting up our own 3Speak video tube using that technology as well. We'll put our top 30 content creators in our leaderboard on there and kind of see how it goes. And we're going to work with Kenko to see how we can integrate Speak Network into HiveTube and how we can integrate Speak Network into the 3Speak version of HiveTube, and then see if he can also come across and bring some of his expertise to 3Speak as well. So that's going to be super cool. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to really be a stepping stone to just introducing video communities, being able to spin up your own video community with ease. We already have the ability, basically for free. You just have your own domain name, spin up a decentralized front end on Hive, right? With your own logo. It'll be your community, just showing your community posts. So you get the immutable community, you get the front end open source. You can spin it up. It's a fork of SNC. SNC, great work over there. So, this thing is quickly becoming to the point where spin up a tokenized community. That's the next step. Get the tokens in there. We have I like to think it's a pretty clever way of doing it with the point system, basically taking SNC's point system and adding it in. And then, you see what Ken's doing over there with Hive2, really talented developer, has some foresight, easily goes hand in hand. Now you'll be able to, hopefully soon, be able to spin up your own 3Speak, basically, and have your own token to boot. And the great thing about this, it solves the silo problem, right? People want to stay on YouTube. Why? Because they like the buffet. They like to be able to show up on those results. If you got your own website, you're an island. And people aren't going to have 12 tabs open for their 12 creators. Just a lot of creators' islands are just going to die, right? People are just going to stop going to them. And then they're going to be forced back to the mainstream Web 2 platforms. Well, with this, your content's going to show up on Hive front ends. It'll show up on 3Speak. It'll show up on Hive blog. It shows up on the buffet. You still show up on the search results, but yet you have your own island. It's the best of both worlds. And when people it starts to click, there's going to be a tipping point. People are like, this is just better. It may not have the people now, but it has what I want. And it has what I want to the point where I'm actually going to start, raising awareness about it, because I can see the disconnect where Web 2 they can't offer this. Twitter, that's Twitter's account. It's not my account. It's never going to show up on Facebook, period. Twitter, unless I cross post with my Facebook account. So my little island is definitely not going to, the cross post the links is just not as efficient. So that's what we're looking at. I think the video edition is going to be absolutely massive. There's going to be so many. If you think of how many video communities are out there already, they're just their little websites. This is going to be taking it to the next level. You're on mute, Matt, if you're talking to yourself.
I'm talking to myself. There's two things I want to reiterate that Dan just said there. One is that we have HiveTube, which Kenko's done a great job of releasing. It's a nice front end. So it means anyone can spin up their own video tube now and have their own video channel. And then the Speak team have also worked on effectively a fork of Xsensing. We're calling it breakaway communities. And that allows anyone to create their own separate blogging platform with Web3 integrated. We'll also have an API soon where you can, for videos, where you can put those videos into the blogging platforms, and any other site on Hive will be able to implement that API as well. That's currently being worked on by Sagar. And yeah, I mean, it's coming together. It's coming together. It really is. And like Dan says, it solves the siloing issue when you get siloed into your own website and then put down in the search rankings on Google. This is just like a complete bypass of that. So that's cool. The other thing that's been done recently is the ceramic account indexing system. So we have now a system where people can log in using their MetaMask account. On the back end, it gives them a free ceramic account, and then we have a ceramic indexer that they can post to, and any Hive front end can integrate that indexer. So if the Hive sites integrate that indexer, it means that they can now advertise to the Ethereum community, the BSC community, the Polygon community, and say, hey, log in with MetaMask and post to this indexer.
Choppy.
Their social media. All right. I don't know if you can maybe give that a go then, Dan, and try and resell it.
Yeah, so Ceramic is log in with your MetaMask, eventually log in with your Bitcoin, and then basically be able to attach your Hive account to it. And now you can log into your MetaMask and post immutably on Hive. Then you have an off-chain indexer. So if you think of what Hive is, it's all on-chain. And when you post, people, you're looking at that database, and now all the front ends can display the same content, right? But that's on-chain. We really don't have an off-chain version of that. Well, with this, we do, because every app that runs this indexer, now the off-chain content can show on that front end. So let's say Hive Blog, Peak B, 3Speak, etc., are running this indexer. When you post off-chain, right, you're not taking up resources on-chain, this is off-chain, your content is going to be shown on those front ends. And then you can delete that content. You can do whatever you want with it. It's off-chain, much more flexible. It's going to be, in theory, in the future, much, much cheaper, right? Because on-chain is forever, off-chain is endless. And it's going to be, that's just the idea to solve what I like to call the LOL problem on Hive. What do you do when someone leaves a comment on Hive and you just want to laugh at it? Just a little shit post, maybe a little GIF. Does that really need to be on an immutable database forever to the end of time? I don't think so. I think 10 years from now, people are going to look back at some of these comments like, holy crap, these people were ballers. Or, wow, look at what these people used to, they put everything on chain. That's insane, because on chain is going to be dedicated to very important information because it's not tampered with. It needs to be on there forever. And then you have this robust off-chain economy, which we're trying to kickstart, where, we're basically just trying to scale Hive. Scale the database, because we don't, not everybody feels. I think there'll be a lot more interaction if people felt that freedom. Like on Twitter, you don't think twice. You just say, oh, well, you do whatever you want, right? We want that same feel on Hive. You don't want to say, oh, should I say this comment? Am I going to be bloating the chain? Is it worth the resource credits, et cetera, et cetera? So
the other thing that happens there as well is that it's unlimited accounts because it's not a resource-based system. So if you're an app running this, you can solve your sign-up issue immediately because you just got unlimited sign-ups. And then you can effectively implement what we would call like a stepping stone or a two-step process to sign up. So you start posting off-chain with your free Ceramic account or your MetaMask login. And then at a certain point, you see, these guys with Hive accounts, they've got immutable text storage, they've got more monetization, they've got more interaction options and more privileges within the ecosystem. So at that point, it's like, I'll actually pay to get a Hive account. And with that, you've got a much smoother login process because you're not forcing people to get these 4 keys straight off the bat and everything like this. You just get a nice, quick, easy Ceramic sign-in, MetaMask sign-in, you've got your Ceramic account, and then from there you can, like Dan was just saying, you can attach your Bitcoin account to it, you can receive Bitcoin and Lightning tips that way, you can attach your Ethereum account to it, you can attach your BSC account to it, etc. And then, of course, you can also attach your Hive account to it. and then that allows you to post immutably to the Hive blockchain as well. And then that's got all sorts of the repercussions and implications, like you will get into a place in the near future, in say around November time, when peer players will finish their SONS technology for Ethereum and Python technology, and so we'll be able to wrap those types of tokens onto Hive, and also put them onto have a layer 2 that allows those tokens to wrap onto the off-chain system. And now you're going to get free transfers for wrapped Ethereum and wrapped and other types of Ethereum Solidity-based tokens. So that's going to be super exciting as well on Hive. And then, of course, that all ties into the larger shadow banking system that people like Taskmaster want to build. That gives us a basis then to build that onto Hive. And it just goes on forever. It's just super exciting going forward.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the bridges, when people can log in with MetaMask as a bridge, you just onboarded every MetaMask user potentially. And the same with Bitcoin. And then once you start adding utility with the Suns, it's going to be very simple. It's going to be a free market approach. Do you want to pay $5 or do you want to pay nothing, or a little bit of resource credits? That's when the utility is going to kick in, and that's when people can't ignore you. So that's what it's about, just building solutions, trying to have some foresight, right? The foresight here is, hey, Hive is a very valuable database. It's a very valuable foundation to build applications with the stable coin that offers interest, fast, feeless payments, about to get one block irreversibility. The core team has been really scaling the node technology, making it, the replays faster, making it more lightweight, making it just more efficient. And then, with the SPK Network, we're just thinking sort of out of the box. How can we sort of scale the chain by actually removing bloat from it and making onboarding a lot easier? So a lot of, that's what Hive is. It's just a lot of activity going on in various different areas. So that's why every year is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and just one more thing to come from that as well is going to be, we're almost in a place where we can start approaching existing platforms and saying to them, hey, you've got all this existing stuff, you've got this existing user base. A lot of them are starting to get curious about Web3. Rather than you build your own complete new Web3 system, which is an absolute pain in the ass, as we all know, it's taken years to do it on Hive. It's like, why not just take those years and just build that capability into what you guys are doing? So we can approach platforms that have got existing user bases and say to them, hey, do you want to become Web3 within like 3 or 4 weeks? Just integrate Hive accounts, and here's how you integrate the Hive accounts, right? And maybe we'll hold their hand or whatever. And then even on top of that, because they're already running their own infrastructure, so they'll already be running their own storage, they'll already be running their own encoder, content delivery systems in many cases. They can just plug that into SPK Network and start becoming part owners of the SPK Network system as well, So I just think we've got so many of these foundational items coming together all at the same time in the next 6 months or so. And then also examples that we can show people. So we're going to be able to show people Hive tubes. We're going to be able to show people the breakaway communities on XNC. We're going to be able to show people the way it works on 3Speak and the other Hive front ends. And you're talking about a demonstration of the easy login with ceramic off-chain account systems, which is effectively what Jack Dorsey's building on Web 5. His Web 5. We're going to do that before he does it. You're talking about the SPK Network, the storage, the incentives for off-chain and infrastructure operators. Like, all these things are coming in the next 6 months or so, and we as a community are going to be able to approach these existing platforms and say, hey, just plug this in. You're already doing it anyway. You just got to plug it into the SPK Network and then plug in Hive accounts, and you can say that you're a fully fledged Web3 platform then at that point. I think that's going to be a massive selling point.
Yeah, I think so. There's going to be a potential here for Hive to really stand out. I see a major flaw in the ecosystem. A lot of people right now are worried about scaling smart contracts, NFT platforms, whereas Hive was like, hey, how do we solve transactions? How do we store long form text in a mutable way? How do we make sure that we can, truly bank the unbanked, right? Like, get people an account, make sure they can actually send transfers for as cheap or little cost at no problem as possible. Then you have the scaling of the nodes. So many things that have been focused on, where not only has the ecosystem is solely focused on, hey, I want to be a layer 1 smart contract, which sounds weird to me. If you're a smart contract, you really should be a layer 2, and you should live on top of a transaction layer that stores text immutably, like Hive. If you don't have that, then you have so many different problems trying to just stuff everything into one layer. Like, oh, I'm being a transaction layer, we're going to store text here, we're going to do everything here. It doesn't make sense. So not only is that a problem, so you have these smart contracts and or just Bitcoin, just small blocks, high fee layer 1s. So now all these applications have raised millions, infinite amounts of money, basically. And it's like trying to drive a car with square wheels. And they've all been trying to do that, pouring money. And some of them did some fancy techniques and did whatever and actually got it to move a little bit. But you can see the flaw. It's like, well, you're never going to get anywhere. We're always going to be superior over here because we have round wheels. An example is that all these applications are trying to build on a high fee layer when they end up, in theory, all of them building their own layer one anyway. It's like, oh, I'm Axie Infinity. I'm going to build on Ethereum. But then they have to have their own layer one, in which they got wrecked for a lot of money. You're going to see that over and over again as people realize this doesn't make any sense. We're just like literally building our own layer one island and connecting to Ethereum just because that's what people say is popular right now. Whereas people building on Hive, they have the low fees. They actually have the long form text immutability. They can actually build applications that work. And we're going to see a rise. We should see a clear separation as these applications start to be used in the real world, as you start to see another Splinterlands. I mean, when you compare Splinterlands to something built on Ethereum, no competition. Like it would cost so much more money on Ethereum. It'd break Ethereum. It wouldn't work. It'd be impossible. That's one application on Hive. It's not going to take long before people are like, okay, maybe you don't want to build your foundation on a layer one with high fees.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about Hive in this scenario is that everything that you're going to need to take as part of your Web3 outside platform account, right? So your personal account that you want to take with you to all the other apps, everything that's critical to that is all on the Hive layer one. So your account, community, your followers, your tokens, your content, it's all on the layer one, where the layer one just so also happens to be ownerless, no CEO, no company, no pre-mine, no ICO, right? Decentralized, founder's stake was removed and put into a DAO. So there's no company to go for. There's no centralized failing point, as all of these other chains have. So you've got all that. And then the layer two systems that you build on top, so the apps and the smart contract systems, they're all going to be able to tailor their own user experiences whilst keeping those common essential Web3 items like the user account, the community, the followers lists, all that's going to remain on layer one. And that's all that needs to remain on layer one. That's it, right? And that's the beauty. Now you've got a really lightweight layer one that you can now build the customizable user experiences on the layer two section without having to rebuild all that shit yourself like they're doing on all these other so-called layer twos on Ethereum, which they're not layer twos, they're layer ones plus layer ones.
Yeah, the point of the layer one is to exhaust all security onto the layer one, so you do not have to worry about that. So now you're just purely focused on smart contract scaling. You're not worried about, we have to worry about the underlying token not being forked because we have to bunch a bunch of transactions because it costs an arm and a leg to basically communicate with Ethereum. On Hive, you can say, hey, here's my state. Boom, it's on chain, not going anywhere, costs nothing. I can do that however often I really need to, very efficiently. Now, in my head, I can just focus on smart contracts. If you look at a Deluxe or a Hive engine, Hive engine is very clever under the hood. And you start to look at Deluxe, you see where it's like, oh, wow, we're free. We can just focus on smart contracts.
You can focus on what you're good at. You can focus on the thing that you need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just love that, and it comes back to like just what you were just saying. You look at, for example, Deluxe and the way that's set up. It relies on everything that it needs to for Hive, and then all the other stuff that's specialized to itself. They focus on that on the layer two. So I can see, Dan. I'm not sure about how you feel about this, but if you look at the Lightning Network allows you to choose which transactions you process. So it means that there's a good chance in the future that the big tech companies are going to run their own Lightning nodes with their own big apps, and they'll get popular, and you're going to get siloed into which ones you can transact with. If you're a person of interest, let's say, or an anonymous person they don't like, right? They'll be able to turn you off. Whereas we'll be able to do the exact same thing on Hive and Honeycomb which is the Deluxe technology, whilst being able to effectively force validators to receive transactions. They won't be able to block anybody, which is what we would expect from a freedom technology, and then run all of that at zero fees on a layer two that doesn't have to look after accounts or anything like that. So the layer two can be nice and light. So effectively, we're going to be able to build Lightning Network on Hive without too much of a problem, and it's not going to be people aren't going to be able to block each other as well on top of that.
Yeah, I don't get it's not very popular to have the opinion I'm about to say about the Lightning Network, but and I hold Bitcoin. I'm very critical of all my investments. If you look at Bitcoin and you look at a Lightning Network, Bitcoin's eventually going to run out of emissions, right? It means you're going to have to get paid from the block reward, or not the block reward, from transaction fees. You have a 1 megabyte block. Let's say it's 4 megabytes with SegWit, so you can push it to 4 megabytes. How high are those fees going to have to be to secure the chain? Astronomical, $1,000 minimum. You're looking at Bitcoin. If it's going to do what it's going to do, it's going to replace the current Swiss system. It's going to be pristine capital. It's what banks, nation states, people are going to use to transfer and settle. It's not going to be for your common person, right? So then you're like, okay, well, that's what the Lightning Network's for. All right, well, let's look at the Lightning Network. Who's going to be the Lightning Network nodes? Chase Bank, big Web 2 entities, the people with the liquidity, and the people who can get around red tape. Why? Because there's no natural incentive built into the Lightning Network. It doesn't. I mean, you could chalk it up to being naive, or you could just chalk it up to this is how it's intentionally made. Not saying it's necessarily bad or good. It's still a better system, but it's not a truly decentralized system in practice. Why? Because Lightning Network is where 99.9999% of humans, let's say in 100 years, are going to be on Bitcoin. They're never going to touch the base layer ever. Nobody's even going to know about base layer. It's going to be like no one knows about how the Swiss system works. Like it's going to be just like an app on your phone, and it's going to be run by a centralized custodian. Well, what
KYC. KYC.
Yeah. So what's the problem there with Lightning Network? Well, Lightning Network's not on Bitcoin until you settle onto layer one. Well, if you're never going to settle onto the layer one because you just can't afford to, that means you're at the mercy of whoever the node operator is. Not everyone's going to run a node. We already know that. So it's going to be centralization all over again, because if they want to stop you, they can just stop you and say, no, we'll shut down your channel. You can't. We're going to blacklist your channel. You're not going to be, and we've already seen many parts of this. People, big Lightning Network node operators blacklisting people, say, no, you can't, blocking them, saying, hey, you can't operate with us. It doesn't take long before, you're blocked for your political views or whatnot. And now you can't interact with the Swift system. It's much easier. It's much deadlier for a tyrant in that situation because they have much more control. And without a natural incentive system, now let's say you have for argument's sake, time's sake, slap a DPOS system, right? My duct tape to solving everything. Slap DPOS on it. Let's incentivize, 30 nodes. Doesn't matter where you're from. If you run a Lightning Network node, you're going to get paid from either inflation or whatever kind of value mechanism we come up with to make sure we have a sustainable way for you to be incentivized. And now it doesn't matter who you are. You can be somebody from some random place. Now you're incentivized to actually run a node. And now as the user, if I get blocked from the big tyrants, I at least have a pool of nodes I can choose from who I know are going to put my transaction through, because they're not getting paid from me. They're getting paid from the system.